Have you ever watched Stranger Things and thought, wow, all of this looks realistic as heck? Well, you can thank the Duffer Brothers for that. Since the creators of Stranger Things grew up watching traditional horror, they wanted to incorporate about 80% practical effects and only about 20% CGI into Stranger Things. This created one of the most interesting behind the scenes in the history of TV ever, complete with fake corpses, demo puppy jellies, and even a mysterious beach ball. So today we have an exclusive sneak peek at what Stranger Things really looks like before the CGI. But before that, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We're giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's all your choice, but be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. First off, fake corpses. If you thought the dead bodies of Will and Barbara were just created by makeup, think again. Those were actual prop bodies created by a special makeup effects company called Fractured FX. Eerie, right? Can you imagine shooting a scene with your friend's highly realistic fake corpse on set? Anyway, it was the same company that built the large yellow egg the monster feeds on in the Upside Down in Chapter 8. So we've got a lot to thank Fractured FX for. Next up, making it snow. This one's quite a shocker. We all know that Stranger Things Season 1 ended on Christmas Eve, which meant that it's pretty logical to have some snowfall action here and there. But of course, that doesn't mean the TV show production has to shoot at the same time and wait for actual winter to shoot those scenes. In an interview with the Duffer Brothers, they revealed that they had to ship over 20 tons of ice from Florida to make it happen. Now that's what I call dedication. How about those 80s things? While the showrunners can't really make real corpses, especially out of our beloved characters, and actual snow for winter scenes back in Season 1, they did make sure to whip up some real 80s nostalgia with actual items that were a thing 4 decades ago. These included the sick boombox in Will's room, the kids' bikes, and even Jonathan's Pentax SLR. Now you know things from those times were a lot sturdier than the fragile tech and equipment of today. But that's not the only thing that was real during the filming. Did you know the mall that was the location of the epic final sequence in Stranger Things Season 3 was real? Yes, you heard it right. The Stranger Things team scouted and found Atlanta's Gwinnett Place Mall to film in. The mall was built in 1984, which technically speaking was around a year before Season 3 took place. Cool, right? Was the tobacco real too? We all know that life in Hawkins is fairly stressful, especially if you're the only few adults in town who know what's really going on in your beloved home. No wonder Will's mom, Joyce Byers, and Chief Jim Hopper smoked a lot to calm their nerves. Now, even if Stranger Things Season 3 was lauded, they still got criticized for how often they depicted adult smoking on the show. In fact, it got so bad that the video streaming company vowed to never depict smoking and even vaping for films rated PG-13 and TV shows rated TV-14 and below, with the sole exception of showing it off for historical accuracy. Let's talk Demogorgon. Most people think the Demogorgon, the main antagonist of Season 1, was pure CGI. But nope, there's an actual person playing the part, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. Mark Steger, a performance actor and choreographer, was actually cast to portray the monster in a suit. His body was then scanned to sculpt the body of the monster, and animatronics were installed to control the movements in post-production. Looking at the behind the scenes, it was absolutely hilarious to see the gang running away terrified from a silly man, but it actually took a lot of effort to create the final product, which actually terrified us after all. For one, it would take Steger about half an hour to get into the suit, which weighed about 30 pounds. He also wore metal stilts that raised his height by about 8 to 10 inches. And for all those head pedals, he had to wear a headpiece with 26 motors running, and they would sometimes run so loud that Steger had trouble hearing direction on set. Mad respect for this guy. Now what about those super adorable Demodog babies? Those were obviously CGI, but did you really think Dustin and the rest of the crew could fabricate such cute reactions while staring into a whole bunch of nothing? Of course not. The prosthetics team had to use jelly action figures for the actors to interact with, but when the demo puppies grew up to be monster Demodogs, those miniature jelly figures became way too small to keep the illusion, so they propped up plastic heads onto sticks to make it work. That was back in Season 1, but come Season 2, 2, Stranger Things had enough budget to actually use 3D printers to create portions of the Demodog. When Bob was killed, they 3D printed a head and a paw to use for the scene where the Demodog goes in the fridge. Impressive, right? And if you're wondering about the incredible sounds created by the Demodog, well, that's just the sound of humans gargling water. Yep, seriously. Moving on now to another villain, the Mind Flayer. Come Season 2, Stranger Things focused on another antagonist. This time, the much bigger, much more terrifying Flayer can no longer be made using jelly action figures. So what did the creators use? Well, just a bunch of beach balls attached onto spikes. At this point, you can really appreciate the amazing acting skills of Millie Bobby Brown and the gang. Imagine acting super scared of some floating beach balls. To be fair, sometimes it was a man in a red suit and a metallic helmet playing the part of the Mind Flayer before the CGI is put in. But still, how they can act so mortified of such a silly man is just beyond me. Now let's discuss the real-world atmospheric effects. The Mind Flayer brought with it a new batch of atmospheric special effects. According to Paul Graff, who did most of the work on these creepy effects, they collated some of the coolest real-world phenomenon to create the cinematic masterpiece. They looked for cool storms, clouds over volcanic eruptions, a red lightning strike interposed with some dark ash-filled clouds, and tornadoes catching fire. It sounds absolutely insane, but you know how beautiful it looked in the show, right? Then there's the Rift. The climax of the second season saw Eleven and Chief Hopper descending into the Rift Cavern. This was also mostly Graff's handiwork. Aside from the out-of-this-world editing for the entire look of the Rift, Graff's best work can be appreciated with the way he enhanced Millie Bobby Brown's performance in the scene. Without making the young lady look like a monster, they added a lot of texture and veins to her face and even changed up the pupils in her eyes post-production. Next up is the drip. A huge part of Eleven's character is her frequent nosebleeds. It would have been difficult to make this one look realistic using CGI, so they literally had to shoot fake blood up Millie's nose when it was time for Eleven to have a nosebleed. They can't exactly fit a vial up there or a plastic pack without ruining the entire scene, so most of Millie's job on set actually involves tilting her head back and keeping the fake blood in so it wouldn't come dripping out before its time. We can't forget Eleven's pool scene. One thing that clearly worked for the Duffer Brothers the first time around was back in Season 1, when Eleven showed off her ability to float in the kiddie pool. No special effects were required for this one though. They only used 1,200 pounds of Epsom salt dissolved in warm water to pull it off. There was reportedly so much salt in that water that Millie got really dizzy because of it. I wouldn't want to dip my face into that one for sure. What about the hairy secret? While the team did not use CG on Eleven's pool scene, they did with her hair in Season 2. We already know how difficult it was for Millie Bobby Brown and her family to bid farewell to her long and brown locks, but Millie did it to get the part of Eleven. Millie Bobby Brown's hair did eventually grow longer, and she was not about to part with it a second time around. So, for the flashbacks in Season 2, the showrunners had to allow Millie to keep her due while at the same time forcing poor VFX teams to add Eleven's signature bald head in post. And nope, a bald cap just did not work. As always, the VFX team did a pretty good job. Next is demystifying the Void. Understandably, the Void, or the place in Elle's mind where she can use her powers to find people, is filled with mysteries. But what's baffling is how the Stranger Things crew was able to show off this eerily pitch black place. It's pretty disturbing to see an all-black place depicted on camera, but to be honest, it wasn't too hard for the team. At least they did not need to use CGI on this one. To achieve this mysterious world, the art department built something like a mini hockey rink and filled it with water. The entire place was surrounded with black theater drapes too. Then the tricky part was the lighting to make sure that nothing unnecessary would become suddenly visible on screen. Of course, they did have to post-produce the whole thing to make it a little bit more mysterious. So with that, we wrap up the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.